Hey guys, we are here today to talk about the Pythagorean theory. What does that mean? Well, it means a squared plus b squared equals c squared in a right triangle. What does that mean, Mrs. Gibbons? All right. 1 second. Okay. A right triangle is a triangle that one of the angles is a right angle. What is a right angle? Hopefully you guys know this. A right angle equals 90 degrees. And that's what this little box means, is 90 degrees. So that's a right angle, right triangle. Let's say this is a right triangle. 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 As long as one of the angles in the triangle is a right angle, then you're talking about a right triangle. All right, now, believe me, I understand what I'm saying sounds kind of crazy and you don't really understand what I'm saying. Don't worry about that. I'm going to explain it all to you. But the Pythagorean theory says that in a right triangle, in a right triangle, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Write that down. Stop what you're doing right now and write this down in your notebook. The Pythagorean theory says that in a right triangle, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I promise by the end of this lecture, it'll all make sense. Okay, now I just need to do a little review with you for square roots and such. What is 6 squared? Hopefully you know that 6 squared is 6 times 6, and that's 36. What is 2 squared? Well, 2 squared is 2 times 2, so that's 4. What is 8 squared? 8 squared, 8 times 8 is 64. Now, what is the square root of 36? That means what times what? What two identical numbers multiplied times each other makes 36? 6. What is the square root of 4? Two identical numbers multiplied by each other that makes 4. 2. What is the square root of 64? What times what equals 64? And both the whats have to be the same. That's 8. So the 8 squared is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. You really, 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 really need to know this to be able to do the Pythagorean theorem and write triangles quickly. So 7 squared, what's 7 squared? 7 squared is 49. What is the square root of 49? The square root of 49 is 7. What is 3 squared? 3 squared is 9. What is the square root of 9? The square root of 9 is 3. Okay, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to do that, you know, fairly quickly to be able to understand the Pythagorean theorem. All right, now we're moving on. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Let's make a right triangle. Here we are, a right triangle. I've got this little square here. I made a square. That means this angle is 90 degrees. This is a right triangle because one of the angles is a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to say this length right here is 6 inches. And I'm going to say this length right here is 8 inches. So now I can tell you that this length right here, I can do it because I'm going to call this A, and I'm going to call this B, and I'm going to call this C. And because I know A squared plus B squared equals C squared, I can say 6 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. All right, now what is 6 squared? 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. 8 times 8 is 64 equals C squared. What is 36 plus 64? 64, 74, 84, 94 plus 6 is 100. 100 equals C squared. All right. All right, we're closer, but I don't want C squared. I want C. So how do I find C? Well, I can find the square root, because the square root of C squared is going to be C. But if I find the square root of this side, I have to find the square root of this side. So what is the square root of 100? The square root of 100, what times what two numbers that are equal to each other multiplied by each other equal 100? Hopefully you know that answer. That's 10. 10 times 10 is 100. So 10 equals C. There we are. Now I've got C equals 10. And that's our answer. Let's do another one. Let's say, let's make this right triangle. Always remember, Pythagorean theorem only works with right triangles. Okay, so this is a right triangle. Let's say this side is 3 feet. And let's say this side is 4 feet. And I want to know how much how many feet is this length? Well, I'm going to say this is A, this is B, and this is C. And I know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's figure it out. Which one is A? This one's A. So 3 squared. Which one is B? This one plus 4 squared equals C squared. Okay, well, what is 3 squared? 3 times 3 is 9. What is 4 squared? 4 times 4 is 16. 9 plus 16 equals C squared. What is 9 plus 16? 9 plus 16 is 25. 25 equals C squared. But I don't want C squared. I need C. So I find the square root, because the square root of C squared is just C. But if I find the square root of this side, I have to find the square root of this side. So what is the square root of 25? What times what equals 25, where both numbers are the same? That's 5. The square root of 25 is 5. Equals C. C equals 5. All right. Now you guys should hopefully understand the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, if your triangle looks like this, well, sorry, like this, it won't work. It must be a right triangle. Must be a right triangle. If you have a right triangle, then absolutely, positively, every single time, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You can do it with numbers with decimals. Let's go, hold on. Sorry, I'm messing up. Okay. Let's say, make sure we know this is a right triangle. I don't know, let's say this is 2.2 feet. And let's say this is 4.6 feet. And this is X. And we say solve for X. Okay, what am I going to do? Well, it's a right triangle, so I know the Pythagorean theorem will work. So I know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We can just randomly say, I can call this A and I can call this B, or I could call this A and this B. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go A, B, C. So 2.2 squared plus 4.6 squared equals C squared. All right, well, let's do 2.2 times 2.2. This is 4, 4, 0, 4, 4. Decimal goes here. 4, 8, 4. All right. 4.84 plus, I have to erase that so I can have some space to work. Okay, 4.6 times 4.6. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3, 27. Bring down a 0. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2, 18. Decimal point goes here. 6, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, 2, 21.16, 21.16 equals C squared. Now I have to add those together. And I've got 21.16 plus 4.84 26 equals C squared. But I don't want C squared. I need C. I need C. So I have to get the square root of both sides. So the square root of 26 equals C. This is kind of really for Mrs. Givens, this is good enough. You can just tell me the square root of 26. But sometimes, because I'm going to give you some worksheets to work on, and they actually want you to give the real answer. This is one of the few times that I give you permission to use a calculator. Use a calculator and just put in the square root of 26. Whatever the square root of 26 is, will be your answer. Let's do one more, and then you're done. All right, let's make, no, I'm gonna do a different, okay. Oh, there we are. Okay. I don't know, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say 5.3 centimeters. That's more than 5.3 centimeters, whatever. Use your imagination. 5.3 centimeters and 3.8 centimeters and X. And it says solve for X. Okay, well, look, it's a right triangle. No biggie. I know that in a right triangle, I can use the Pythagorean theory. And the Pythagorean theory is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so I just randomly select them. I'm going to say this is a and this is b and this is c. Okay, so 5.3 squared plus 3.8 squared equals c squared. Okay, so 5.3 times 5.3, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 5 is 15, bring down a 0, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is 26, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 2, and the decimal goes here, so 28.09 plus 3.8 times 3.8, 8 times 8 is 64, 8 times 3 is 24, plus 6 is 30. Bring down a 0, 3 times 8 is 24, 3 times 3 is 9, 10, 11, 4, 4, 4, 1. Decimal goes here. 14.44 equals C squared. Now I have to add these two. 28.09 plus 14.44, 13, 5, 12, 4, 42.53. Let me rewrite that. 42.53 equals c squared. What? I don't want c squared. I need c. I need c. So I have to find the square root of both sides. If I'm finding the square root of both sides, then the square root of 42.53 equals c. Yay! You can really, you can give me this as the answer right here. But I need you to really understand that sometimes other teachers or on the map test, for the map test, this is probably not going to be good enough. You're going to have to actually use a calculator and solve the square root of 42.53. But I feel confident that you know how to use a calculator and find the square root of 42.53. If you do not know how to use a calculator to find a square root, please ask me. All you have to do is ask me, okay? And I'll help you, but I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do that. Okay, that is the entire lesson for now. The Pythagorean theory. Sometimes it is called the Pythagorean theorem. No, theorem. No, E, it's an E. Theorem. Theorem. Sometimes you'll hear theory and sometimes you'll hear theorem. Same thing. A squared plus B squared equals C squared in a right triangle. Okay, I am assigning a worksheet for you guys and you're good to go. Bye, guys.